Who wins at UFC 297 in January? Sean Strickland or Dricus du Plessis? Let's see what other fighters say about the much-awaited UFC 297. In 2024, UFC 297 will mark the first pay-per-view event, and Dana White has revealed the primary attraction for the card. The main event on the UFC 297 schedule is a middleweight championship between Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland. Strickland defeated Israel Adesanya with such dominance that he was declared the new champion. Dricus will now challenge Strickland for the championship instead of facing Adesanya as originally planned. The event is scheduled for January 20th, 2024. This will be one of the bouts that the UFC has announced thus far when it makes its first trip back to Canada since 2018, according to Sherdog. Before their main event at UFC 297 in January of next year, undefeated middleweight champion Sean Strickland anticipates a war with rising rival Dricus du Plessis, but he maintains he is far more experienced than the South African. At UFC 293 in Sydney, Australia in September, Strickland, the recently crowned undisputed middleweight champion, stunned the fighting world by defeating Israel Adesanya, the former two-time division gold medalist, by majority decision. Since entering the octagon 3 years ago, du Plessis, a native of Pretoria, has gone on an incredible 6-bout winning streak. In their championship eliminator match, he won his middleweight title battle via spectacular second-round knockout over previous champion Robert Whittaker. Covina native Strickland will try to make history by successfully defending his title against du Plessis at UFC 297 in January next year in Toronto, Canada. He anticipates a war of wills and an even more difficult fight with the South African before facing the undefeated Khamzat Chimaev. Speaking on his YouTube channel, Sean Strickland stated, "I think Dricus du Plessis is so awkward, but he's good. Where I feel like I'm a million times superior to him. I know who he is. I spar with men his fought. But he's so awkward, he's good," Sean Strickland explained. "It's going to be a fucking war. He'll be a tougher fight than Khamzat Chimaev." Predicting a tough, drawn-out fight with the South African contender du Plessis next year in the Great White North, defending middleweight champion Strickland has opened as a significant betting underdog to beat the former in the UFC 297 championship fight. Regarding UFC middleweight champion Sean Strickland, Dricus du Plessis has no intention of altering his strategy. The title fight between du Plessis 20-2 MMA and 6-0 UFC and Strickland 28-5 MMA 15-5 UFC takes place on January 20th at the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto as the main event of UFC 297. The former EFC dual champion du Plessis promises he won't require his championship round experience, but he does anticipate it to be a factor. "One thing that I think is going to shock a lot of people is the way I go at this," du Plessis said in an interview with My MMA News. "From the very first second of this fight, I'm going to go like I always do. The first opportunity I get, I will finish this fight. My honest prediction is there's no way we're going to championship rounds of this fight." Du Plessis intends to approach Strickland with the same enthusiasm that he has applied to all but one of his 20 professional victories. Both du Plessis and Strickland are fresh off of shocking victories. Du Plessis defeated former champion Robert Whittaker via TKO, while Strickland unsettled Israel Adesanya to claim the title. According to du Plessis, "I think people know it's going to be an entertaining fight. I have performed admirably and poorly throughout my career, both inside and outside of the UFC. I have had victories in fights that I wasn't satisfied with, and defeats in fights that I felt like I gave my best. But not one of those performances, good or bad, was not entertaining. I never had an under-entertaining fight in my life." And with Sean Strickland, he's had some fights where it wasn't entertaining. But when you get me and you get Strickland, you get two guys that are not afraid to stand there and bang. He doesn't like to fight backwards, and I promise you I'm not fighting backwards. Dricus du Plessis is the favorite to defeat Sean Strickland in the bout, according to Henry Cejudo. When Strickland faced Adesanya, he had made the same forecast and been proven incorrect. He does think that the last style bender will try to come back at the historic UFC 300 card, though. At UFC 297, middleweight champion Sean Strickland, 28-5 in MMA and 15-5 in the UFC, will take on Dricus du Plessis, who has a record of 20-2 in the MMA and 6-0 in the UFC. The main event is expected to be a decisive battle, with du Plessis promising a quick finish. It is set for January 20th at the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. Although du Plessis, a past EFC dual champion, is certain of his championship round expertise, he maintains that it won't be required this time. He is well known for his aggressive style, which was recently demonstrated by a TKO victory against former champion Robert Whittaker. 19 of his 20 wins have come via finishes. In a similar vein, Strickland has proven his mettle by unseating Israel, paving the way for a thrilling confrontation. During his interview with My MMA News, du Plessis discussed his career highs and lows and stressed the fight's entertainment potential. Over my career, both inside and outside of the UFC, I've had both fantastic and bad performances. However, every single one of those performances, whether excellent or not, was enjoyable. I swear to you, I'm not fighting backwards. And he, Strickland, doesn't like to fight backwards, he continued. At UFC 297, du Plessis predicted that the fight would end before the championship rounds, which bodes well for an intriguing contest. With both competitors renowned for their forward fighting techniques, spectators can anticipate an exciting contest. At UFC 293 in September, the newly crowned champion Sean Strickland stunned the world by displaying a defensive masterclass against Israel Adesanya, the legendary striker and former two-time champion. The division was shattered by the unanimous decision win, which demonstrated to the world that Tarzan is as legitimate as they come. Strickland wasn't the first pick to fight Adesanya, but he proves his naysayers wrong when given the chance. That was meant to be Dricus du Plessis of South Africa, who pulled off his incredible upset victory over former champion Robert Whittaker at UFC 290 in the second round via TKO. Regretfully, still Knox was unable to make the September turnaround due to a persistent foot issue that he battled through in the Whittaker fight. Now, everything is falling into place for his January 20th meeting with Strickland at UFC 297 in Toronto, Canada. Whittaker feels that this will work out better than if Khamzat Chimaev, the second leading contender, gets the shot. Regarding the championship match announcement, Whittaker told Submission Radio it kind of cleared a lot of things up. The division is in a really strange situation. There are a ton of fighters who are either inactive, currently busy, or simply watching from the sidelines. Everything has been shifted up by the wins-losses we've had in the top 5. Then, apparently, Chimaev and Usman enter the fray to contend for a title shot. I think it's fair that Dricus is getting the title shot with Sean because he wasn't involved in many of the negotiations for the next title shot with Sean. The author said, "What was his current situation? Bravo to him. I believe he deserves recognition for defeating me." Whittaker was aiming to return to action before the end of the year, but he hasn't fought since losing to du Plessis. Now that it's out of the question, the Reaper is interested in returning by March at the latest. In an ideal scenario, he'll also get a rematch with du Plessis eventually. While du Plessis attempts to return the title to South Africa, Australia's Whittaker will relax and enjoy the UFC 297 along with the rest of the globe. Off the cuff, I want to say Dricus just cause like he did beat me, and that gives me a path. Also, just to get it back off him, Whittaker predicted. Also, I think both guys love making it a dogfight, right? I think, what can I say? How can I doubt Dricus when he beat me last time? Have to wait and see if strength is a factor. I didn't feel that he was out of this world strong. It's just how the cards fell sort of thing. What do you think of these reactions? Let us know in the comments below. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, don't forget to hit that like button below. And if you want to stay updated with more great content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us.